Welcome in, everybody, to the Week 10 Waiver Wire Show. Coming off a big Week 9. Garrett Wilson, Devontae Smith, circus catches, Saquon Barkley hurdling people backwards. Man, incredible week. Exciting week. Got some big name waiver wire pickups for you this week, 18 of them. It's time to start looking at those handcuff running backs for injuries. So we'll get right into it. Starting with Trey Benson from the Arizona Cardinals. We all know James Conner's injury history, and it seems like he deals with it every year at some point. Saw a little scare this past week. But Trey Benson played 28% of the snaps, had 8 carries, 37 yards, and a touchdown. Pretty solid week for him. Probably his best week of the year, easily. First touchdown of his career. Pretty solid schedule going forward. Got a bye week in 2 weeks in week 11. But then he's got Seattle. He's got the Jets this week, so a little bit tougher matchup. He won't really be a factor unless Conner gets hurt. But if Conner does get hurt, he's got New England, Carolina, and the Rams in the playoffs this year. So Trey Benson, if you have space on your bench to stash a running back, go ahead and stash Trey Benson. Next up, Blake Corum. Same reasoning. Kyron Williams, we've seen him get injured in the past. Blake Corum will probably 100% fill in that role if Kyron Williams goes down. He hasn't seen a whole lot of action, which shows how committed they are to a one running back system. So Blake Corum, same reason. If you have same thing, if you have room to stash him on your bench, throw him on there for future benefit if Williams goes down. Next up, this is more of a speculative ad. He's been a healthy scratch. Khalil Herbert has been a healthy scratch the past 2 weeks. And the trade deadline is coming up tomorrow. So we could see Khalil Herbert get traded. And he could land in a system where he gets a little bit of run. So it'd be interesting to see where he ends up. That's if you don't get any of the other people. We'll probably know before most of your your waiver wires come through. So if he doesn't get traded, then scratch this. Don't pick up Khalil Herbert. But if he does, if your waiver wires pass through before the trade deadline, then throw Khalil Herbert on your bench, and then you could drop him if it doesn't happen. Next up, Ray Davis. This dude, if James Cook goes down, Ray Davis is going to be a league winner. He is an explosive play waiting to happen. We saw it this past week with that huge catch and run for over 60 yards in that game. He only played 14% of the snaps, but like I said, if James Cook goes down, Ray Davis is going to be a league winner for whoever gets a hold of him. So if you can beat your league mates and grab him now, just in case it happens, then he is a great stash. Next up, Cam Akers. So Cam Akers seems to be the backup in Minnesota now. We didn't see any of Ty Chandler this past week, and Cam Akers seems to have taken on that number 2 role behind Aaron Jones. So if Aaron Jones goes down, you're probably going to see more of Cam Akers. Not saying we're not going to see Ty Chandler, but he could be another candidate for the trade deadline tomorrow, which is why they're probably moving on to Akers. It'd be interesting to see. Pretty good schedule going forward. Finishes with Seattle and Green Bay the last 2 weeks if Aaron Jones were to go down. So he played 22% of the snaps, 6 carries, 46 yards, only 9% rostered in Sleeper. So it could be a good ad if Jones goes down. Next up, the last running back, Audric Estime. Sean Payton just came out and said Estime should see more work going forward. It could be because of Javonte Williams' lack of efficiency. And, I mean, he had a few good weeks where he was really efficient and he was looking like he was going to put a handle on that backfield. But over the past couple weeks, it hasn't been that way. So we're going to see a little more of Estime. If Estime comes out and plays well, we could end up seeing a 50-50 split in this backfield between those two. So grab Estime. In the case that he ends up playing better than Williams, he's only 5% rostered in Sleeper. And I mean, having a running back that gets 50% of a rush share is pretty solid, especially going down the stretch where injuries will probably happen, especially this year. Injuries have been plaguing the league, so grab Estime if you have room. Next up, we'll move into wide receivers. I'm going to get into somebody I talked about last week, Demarcus Robinson. Another 2-touchdown week. This dude seems to produce whenever Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua are in the lineup. Obviously, Puka left with an injection for throwing that punch, but Demarcus Robinson produced last week with Puka in the lineup. He's playing well. Best 2 games this last 2 weeks, and he's just not built to be a wide receiver 1. He's built to be a support wide receiver, and that's exactly what he's doing right now. He's not taking on top coverages with Kupp and Puka in the lineup, so he's a talented wide receiver. He's just not a wide receiver 1. So he can be beneficial, fill in. There's some big bye weeks coming up, week 12. I think there's like 6 teams on bye that week. So grab DeMarcus Robinson and throw him in your lineup one of these weeks for a fill-in, for a sub for a bye. New England week 12 with all those, or Philadelphia week 12 with all those big buys coming up. So could be a good stash. And with Puka dealing with that knee injury, we don't know if that's going to end up getting worse. And DeMarcus Robinson is a number 2 behind Cooper Kupp, is a solid option. Next up, another guy I talked about last week, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. Yet again, 4th week in a row, another touchdown. Stepped his snaps up to a 97% snap rate again this week. He's going to be the number 2 in this wide receiver core. Even with Tyler Boyd there, he seems like he's the better option, and he is one they look for in the red zone. Huge flex option if you need that play. He's only 2% rostered in Sleeper. You can grab this guy for pretty much free. So get out, grab Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, because, like I said, could be a solid option going forward with DeAndre Hopkins no longer on that offense. Next up, a guy who I haven't seen in a while, Adam Thielen. I've heard his name pop up on the trade block, so he could end up somewhere where he's useful, but even in Carolina, he's useful. Deontay Johnson off that offense now. Adam Thielen coming back. We don't know what role he's going to play, but he could be the number 1 option going forward, depending on what they feel about Leggett and Coker. So grab Adam Thielen if he's on your waivers. He's only 37% rostered in Sleeper, so he's out there. Grab him, give him the opportunity to be a flex option if he comes back this week. Next up, QJ, Quentin Johnston. This guy has quietly somewhat produced this year when he's been in the lineup. Missed 2 weeks with an injury, but came back. 4 receptions on 5 targets for 118 yards and a touchdown. This guy is the big play opportunity in this offense. He is a guy that Justin Herbert looks for down the field. So Quentin Johnston, 27% roster. He's out there. Grab him. Give yourself that big play touchdown opportunity in this offense. Next up, Jalen Tolbert. Jalen Tolbert, CeeDee Lamb is dealing with AC joint injury. Is week to week. Week to week typically means he's going to miss at least this week. Dak Prescott, hamstring injury. That's what hurts this waiver pickup, in my opinion. But hamstring injury is going to be out at least the next couple weeks. I'm not a big fan of Dak Prescott, but I'm not sure what the backups are going to be able to do for Jalen Tolbert there in Dallas. So, but I would still grab him, stash him, because we don't know how long this AC joint is going to play out for CeeDee Lamb. And the worse that the Cowboys get, we don't know how fast they're going to rush him back. What's the point in rushing your star receiver back if you're going to just take a chance at injuring more and you don't really have a chance? So grab Jalen Tolbert. He could be the number 1 option here in Dallas outside, and could be a big play going forward for a team who can grab him. Next up, Darius Slayton, another name I've heard kind of pop up on in the trade talks. but even still, he's played well for the Giants. He seems to be one of Daniel Jones's go-to. Since Neighbors has come back from his injury or his concussion, he just hasn't seemed the same. He's still getting the targets, but Darius Slayton seems to be somebody that Daniel Jones goes to more. Neighbors is obviously the more talented wide receiver. He's the number one option in that lineup, and hopefully him and Jones can figure it out and get it going here soon. But Darius Slayton, good flex option, only 26% rostered in Sleeper, so he is an option for you for future weeks. Jahan Dotson. Haven't really been a big fan of him, but A.J. Brown's dealing with a knee injury. We haven't heard a whole lot of news on it yet. Dotson could be somebody, is kind of a dart throw, really. He's definitely not top on my priority. I'm not going for him unless I can get him for next to nothing and I have the room just to stash him in case A.J. Brown's injury is more significant than what we're seeing right now. He ran to the locker room himself, so it doesn't seem too bad, but it could be good to grab Dotson just in case it's worse than what we're hearing. Next up, Parker Washington for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So 85% of the snaps this week, highest snap percentage of the year, 6 targets, 3 receptions, 41 yards. This is just a start for Parker Washington. He's filling that Christian Kirk role, so it's going to be a year-long, season-long thing for him going forward. He's going to continue filling that Christian Kirk role, getting the snaps, and getting some targets. So Washington is a good flex option to throw on your bench. He's only 18% rostered. Grab a season-long asset that you can use instead of just grabbing a person you can fill in for a week or two. It's good to have that depth in case something happens. Next up, we'll move into tight ends. Taysom Hill. So as you guys saw, Chris Olave went down with another concussion. That's his 5th concussion of his career, and 2nd this year. I suspect that we're not going to see Chris Olave for at least a month, maybe even longer, depending on what they decide to do with him. They're out of it this season. There's no point in rushing this guy back and taking the chance of another head injury. It's going to be a lot of Alvin Kamara and Taysom Hill going forward. They don't have many other options. They lost Rashid Shaheed already this year. So Taysom Hill could be a great tight end filler. He plays all over the field, plays running back, he plays tight end, jumps in the slot, plays quarterback. I mean, he plays everywhere. So if you need that tight end option, grab Taysom Hill, only 31% rostered. Saints are just clawing right now, so Taysom Hill could be a good option going forward. Next up, keep an eye on the T. Higgins news and see where that's going, because when he's not in the lineup, Mike Gesicki is a baller. I mean, look at it the last 2 weeks: 8 targets, 7 receptions, 73 yards. This past week, 6 targets, 5 receptions for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. This guy plays really well with T. Higgins not in the lineup. So Mike Gesicki could be a great option going forward for tight ends as long as T. Higgins isn't in the lineup. Next up, we'll move into quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers. Did not think we were going to be seeing this. Actually, we got some breaking news here. Not really breaking, but it's news nonetheless. A.J. Brown's not expected to miss significant time with his knee injury, but it's still something to grab Jahan Dotson for. He's not going to miss significant time. Doesn't mean he's not going to miss any. Could be looking at a couple weeks. So if you need that fill-in if you have A.J. Brown, grab Jahan Dotson just in case. Not sure how much looks he'll get. If Dallas Goedert gets back in the lineup, I don't see Dotson getting a whole lot with Barkley and Smith and Goddard in the lineup. So, but back to Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is starting to settle in with Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson in that lineup. Garrett Wilson, that stupid circus catch in the back of the end zone. I know a lot of people are having problems with the shin being equaling 2 feet, but it's the rule, so it was a catch. I don't even know if Garrett Wilson knew the rule, but he just got lucky and his shin hit the ground. Great catch, unbelievable. But Aaron Rodgers, he's getting settled in with these options. I'm not saying he's going to be the Aaron Rodgers he was, but he's currently QB 13 right now. And if he starts playing a little better, you could be looking at a QB 1 rest of the way down. He's only 48% rostered, and great option at the QB position if you need it. He's got the weapons. Breece Hall in the backfield. I mean, his number 3 option is Mike Williams right now, pretty much for the rest of the season unless they trade him. But with Lazard out. But grab Aaron Rodgers if you need that quarterback option. And then the last guy we're going to talk about is the same guy I talked about last week, and I'll continue talking about him until his roster percentage gets over that 50% mark. But Bo Nix, 44% rostered. He's currently the QB 8 in fantasy football. This guy continues to perform. I mean, yeah, it was a down week for him, 18.22 fantasy points. But if that's my down week for my quarterback, then I'm doing pretty good. 19 for 33, 223 yards. Didn't throw any touchdowns, but he caught one, and he looked like a receiver doing it. Went up and got it out of the air, but 6 for 36 on the ground. This guy's making it happen through the air, on the ground, and he's even catching touchdowns now. Bo Nix has surprised a lot of people, and great fantasy option going forward. So grab Bo Nix and get that QB1. I mean, everybody's still hoping for Kyler Murray and players like that. I mean, drafted Anthony Richardson in the 5th round this year, and it didn't pan out. But Bo Nix is still on a lot of people's waivers. So get out there and grab him and give yourself a QB1 going forward. That's it. That's what I have for you today on the waivers. Make sure you hit that subscribe button as it says there on the bottom, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram as I'm trying to get those things going a little bit. But follow us, hit that subscribe button, and we will catch you guys on the next show.